The Tatras stand eternal, guardians of secrets and rebels alike, their peaks piercing the sky like the spears of ancient gods. In the early years of the 18th century, when the Habsburg emperors ruled from Vienna with iron hand and the Hungarian lords pressed heavy upon the Slovak folk in Upper Hungary, there lived in the village of Trkova a young man named Juraj Jánošík. Trkova lay cradled in the shadow of the Mala Tatra Mountains, where the ridges rose sharp and unforgiving, clothed in dark pine and beech, and the valleys echoed with the rush of mountain streams. The village was small, its houses of timber and thatch huddled together against the long winters, its people hardy shepherds, woodcutters, and farmers who wrested a meager living from the thin soil. Juraj was born in the winter of 1688, the son of a poor farmer named Martin and his wife Anna, who had borne many children but seen few survive the harsh years. From his earliest days, Juraj was marked by strength and spirit, tall for his age, with hair black as the mountain earth and eyes bright as the sparks from a forge. He grew swift and sure-footed upon the slopes, learning to wield the valaška axe with skill, to track deer through the forests, to endure cold and hunger without complaint. The land was not kind. The Habsburg taxes fell heavy after the failed rebellion of Francis Rákóczi, and the local Hungarian magnates, men like Count Andrássy and Baron Révay, grew richer upon the toil of the Slovaks. They seized the best pastures for their flocks, demanded labor upon their estates, took the finest grain and livestock for dues. Martin Jánošík had fought as a Curik in the rebellion, hiding in the mountains with Rákóczi's men, and he told tales by the fire of freedom and justice. Young Juraj listened wide-eyed, his heart stirring with the same fire. When Juraj reached manhood, the echoes of war still lingered. He was conscripted into the imperial army, marching with Habsburg troops against the remaining Curik holdouts. The life of a soldier was grim, long marches, poor rations, officers who cared not for the common man. In a skirmish near the town of Trenčín, Juraj saw his chance. During a night attack by rebels, he slipped away from his company and joined the Curiks in the hills. There he learned the ways of guerrilla war, striking swift and vanishing into the forests, living upon what the land provided, fighting for the people's freedom against foreign rule. He served under captains who remembered Rákóczi's glory, learning to handle pistol and saber, to move silent as shadow through the mountains. The rebellion crumbled in 1711, Rákóczi fleeing to exile in France. Many Curiks surrendered or were hunted down and hanged. Juraj, young and cunning, evaded capture and returned to Trkova, his father's farm. But the taste of liberty lingered like strong spirits upon the tongue. The village was poorer than ever, taxes heavier, lords more arrogant, the people bent beneath the yoke. Juraj could not abide it. One bitter autumn evening, after the steward of Baron Révay had taken the family's last cow for arrears, Juraj gathered a few trusted comrades around the fire in his father's cottage. There was Tomáš Jánošík, an older Curik veteran with scars from many battles, Jan Hunkaga, broad as an oak and strong as a bear, and young Adam from the neighboring valley, quick with knife and jest. "We cannot live thus," quoth Juraj, his voice low but burning. "The lords take all, the grain we sow, the sheep we tend, the very bread from our children's mouths. Whilst they feast in their manors, we starve in our huts." Tomáš nodded slowly. "The old rebellion is dead, but the spirit liveth." "Aye," quoth Juraj. "We shall take back what is ours, not for greed, but for justice. We rob the rich who rob us, and give to those who have not." The men clasped hands upon it. They armed themselves with valaška axes, pistols taken from fallen soldiers, short swords sharp and keen. Their first raid was upon a tax collector traveling the mountain pass from Žilina, his wagon heavy with silver for the Habsburg treasury. They struck at dusk, hidden among the rocks. Juraj leaped upon the lead horse like a mountain cat, Tomáš disarming the guards with swift blows. No blood was spilled, the collector and his men were bound and left to walk home afoot. The silver was taken, divided, part for the band to live, part hidden in caves for need, and the greater share carried back to Trakova and nearby villages. Widows received coin enough for bread through winter. Orphans were given new shoes and warm plaids. Families whose homes the lords had burned for unpaid dues found timber and nails to rebuild. Word spread swiftly through the valleys, Jánošík robbeth the rich and aideth the poor. He taketh from those who take from us. The band grew bolder. They waylaid merchants upon the trade roads, Hungarian nobles returning from Buda with furs and jewels from the east. Always the same pattern, swift as the wind, silent as shadows, striking and vanishing into the mountains. Guards were disarmed, captives treated with courtesy if they yielded, ransomed or released with warning. Juraj forbade unnecessary killing. We are not murderers, quoth he, but bringers of justice. His valaška became famous, a curved axe with handle carved from mountain ash, said to sing in the air when swung. He wore a broad belt embroidered with flowers, a short embroidered coat, and a hat with feathers. Tales grew, how he could bend coins with his fingers, leap from cliff to cliff, dance upon the edge of a sword. In the winters they hid in high caves, living upon dried meat and cheese, snow for water, telling tales by the fire. Juraj spake often of the people's suffering. The lords live in palaces built upon our backs, quoth he. One day the folk will rise, and the land will be free. But danger pressed close. The nobles offered great rewards for his capture, 500 ducats, then 1,000. Habsburg troops patrolled the passes, Hungarian militias hunted the forests with dogs. Juraj's mother begged him to cease when he visited in secret. Thou art my only son left, quoth she, tears in her eyes. The gallows wait for thee. Juraj kissed her brow. Whilst the poor suffer, mother, I cannot rest. Better to die free than live in chains. The legend of Juraj Jánošík spread through the Tatras like wildfire, a symbol of hope for the oppressed, a terror to the mighty. But legends oft end upon the hook. If this tale of mountain rebellion and outlaw justice hath stirred the fire of freedom in thy heart, the defiance that taketh from the mighty to give to the meek, then ride with me yet farther through these wild Tatras. Subscribe thou gently, as one might clasp a comrade's hand in the shadows, and like this story if its bold spirit hath moved thee. Together we shall follow Jánošík upon his perilous road, for the noose draweth ever nearer. Juraj Jánošík and his band of zbójníci ruled the mountain passes like shadows upon the wind, striking where least expected and vanishing into the high Tatras before pursuit could gather. The year 1712 saw their boldest deeds, when the roads from Žilina to Banska Bystrica and from Liptov to Orava trembled at their name. They were few: Juraj, Tomáš Jurčík the veteran, Jan Hunkaga the giant, Adam the quick, and sometimes 2 or 3 more trusted lads from the villages, but their cunning made them seem legion. They lived in hidden caves high upon the slopes, reachable only by secret paths known to shepherds and outlaws. In summer they camped beneath the stars, in winter they burrowed deep where snow sealed the entrances. Their weapons were valaška axes with handles carved from mountain ash, pistols taken from Habsburg officers, short curved sabers sharp as razors. Juraj wore a broad leather belt embroidered with flowers in red and green thread, a gift from a grateful maiden, and a short coat of sheepskin lined with wolf fur. His hat bore eagle feathers, and his boots were stitched strong for the rocky trails. The raids grew legendary. One spring morn they ambushed a convoy of Baron Reve himself upon the road from Rosenborough. The Baron traveled with 20 armed men, his carriage heavy with silver from his mines and silks for his lady in Buda. Juraj's band struck from the rocks above, boulders rolled to block the way, pistols cracking in the narrow pass. Tomáš felled the lead guard with a single blow of his axe. Jan grappled 2 men at once, breaking their swords like twigs. Juraj leaped upon the carriage, ripping open the door. Thy gold for the poor, quoth he to the trembling baron. Yield, and no harm cometh to thee. The baron, pale as parchment, handed over chests of coin and jewels. Juraj took all but a small purse for the baron's journey home. Tell thy fellows, quoth he, that Jánošík taketh from those who take from the folk. The baron was left unbound to walk, his men disarmed and released with warning. The booty was vast, enough to feed villages for a year. That night fires burned in hidden glens as the silver was divided, part for the band, part cached in caves, the rest carried down in secret to Trakova and beyond. Widows wept with joy at bags of flour and coin left upon their doorsteps. Orphans received new boots and warm plaids. A church in need of repair found timber and nails anonymously delivered. Word spread like wildfire through the Tatras. Songs were composed in the villages. Jánošík upon the mountain high, with valaška gleaming in the sky, taketh from the Lord his golden store, giveth to the poor forevermore. Children played at being Jánošík, wielding sticks as axes. Maidens sighed over his handsomeness and kindness. Old men in the inns told tales of his strength, how he bent a silver coin betwixt finger and thumb, how he leaped from crag to crag like a chamois, how his belt gave him power to lift a horse. But the mighty grew wroth. Count Andrassy doubled the bounty upon his head, 2,000 ducats alive, 1,000 dead. Habsburg captains sent patrols into the mountains, Hungarian militias with tracking dogs scoured the forests. Traps were laid, false merchants with armed escorts, decoy convoys. Juraj evaded them all. Once, cornered in a narrow valley by 20 soldiers, he and his band climbed a sheer cliff the dogs could not follow, vanishing into the mists. Another time, betrayed by a false shepherd, they turned the ambush upon the ambushers, disarming the militia and sending them home afoot. In the high summer of 1712, they pulled their greatest feat, robbing the rich Hungarian Lord Juraj upon the pass near Vrutki. Juraj traveled with 40 men and wagons laden with treasure from his estates. Juraj's scouts watched for days, planning every move. They struck at twilight. Boulders blocked the road fore and aft, arrows from hidden bows felled the lead horses. The band descended like wolves, Juraj at the fore, valaška singing. Guards fought bravely, but the outlaws knew the terrain. Tomas wrestled the captain to the ground, Jan shattered shields with his mighty blows. Adam darted betwixt horses, cutting traces. Juraj barricaded himself in his carriage, pistols blazing. Juraj smashed the door with his axe. Yield, my lord, quoth he, and live. The lord surrendered, and the treasure was immense, chests of gold, jewels, fine cloths. Enough to arm a small army. Again, much was given to the poor, villages received seed corn, tools, livestock. A priest who preached against oppression found his church roof repaired overnight. Juraj's fame reached even the imperial court in Vienna. Ballads were sung in distant lands. But with fame came greater danger. Spies infiltrated the villages, bounties tempted the greedy. A former comrade, captured and tortured, revealed hiding places. In the autumn, betrayal struck close. A maiden Juraj had aided, giving her gold for her dowry, fell in love with him and, when spurned gently, turned informer for jealousy. She led soldiers to a cave where the band rested. The fight was fierce. Tomas fell with a bullet in his chest, dying in Juraj's arms. Fight on, brother, quoth he with his last breath. Jan and Adam escaped into the night, but Juraj was wounded and taken. Bound and chained, he was marched to Liptovský Mikuláš for trial. The people wept as he passed, throwing flowers upon the road. The outlaw's height was reached, but the fall began. The winter of 1712 to 1713 was harsh in the Tatras, snow piling deep upon the passes, winds howling like wolves through the valleys. Juraj Jánošík and his remaining band, Jan Hunkaga, Adam, and a new comrade named Michael from Varen, kept to their hidden caves high upon the slopes, venturing down only for necessary raids. Tomas Jursik's death in the autumn ambush weighed heavy upon them, a reminder that fortunes will turneth swiftly for outlaws. Juraj's fame had spread far beyond the mountains. In the villages, folk spake of him with pride, how he robbed the rich Hungarians and Habsburg taxmen, how he gave to the poor Slovaks, how his valaška sang in battle and his belt gave him strength to bend iron bars. Songs were sung in secret, Juraj Jánošík upon the hill, taketh from lords against their will, and children played at being his band, wielding sticks as axes. But with fame came greater peril. The bounty upon his head rose to 3,000 ducats, a fortune that tempted even honest men. Habsburg captains quartered troops in the towns, Hungarian lords hired trackers and dogs. Spies infiltrated the villages, listening for whispers. Juraj knew the net tightened. "We must be warier," quoth he to his comrades one night by the cave fire. "The lords fear us more than ever, for the people love us." Jan nodded, his great frame hunched against the cold. "They will betray us for gold," quoth he. Adam, young and hot-blooded, laughed. "Let them come. We shall send them home lighter." Michael, newer to the band, said little, but his eyes watched Juraj with something akin to worship. In the spring, as snow melted and streams swelled, they planned a great raid upon a convoy from Buda, wagons heavy with silver for the imperial treasury, guarded by 50 men. Scouts reported the route through the Klenevec Pass. Juraj divided the band, he and Jan to strike the front, Adam and Michael the rear. The ambush succeeded beyond hope. Boulders blocked the way, pistols cracked from the rocks, guards fell or surrendered. The silver was vast, chests enough to aid villages for years. They took it all, leaving the guards bound but unharmed. Celebration followed in a hidden glen, mead drunk, songs sung. But Michael, who had drunk deep, let slip words in the village inn at Klenevec where they rested briefly. A maiden there, fair but greedy, heard him boast of the raid and saw the gleam of silver. For promise of reward, she informed the local magistrate. That night, as the band slept in the inn, foolish confidence after victory, soldiers surrounded the building. The door burst open, torches flaring, muskets leveled. "Juraj Jánošík," shouted the captain. "Surrender in the emperor's name." Juraj leaped from his bed, valaška in hand, Jan beside him. They fought like lions, Juraj felling 3 men, Jan crushing shields, but numbers and surprise told. Adam was shot in the leg, Michael surrendered without fight. Jan fell with a bayonet in his side, dying with a curse upon his lips. Juraj was overwhelmed, bound with chains, his wounds bleeding. "Thou hast me," quoth he to the captain, but the spirit of the mountains liveth on. They marched him to Liptovský Mikuláš for trial, chains clanking, guards wary of rescue. The people lined the roads, weeping for their hero, throwing flowers that the soldiers trampled. At the trial in the town hall, nobles and officials sat in judgment. Charges were read: robbery, rebellion, assault upon imperial officers. Juraj stood proud in chains. "I took from those who stole from the people," quoth he. "If that be crime, then hang me gladly." Witnesses, captured guards, betrayed merchants, spake against him. No mention was made of giving to the poor, for that would stir sympathy. The sentence was swift, death by the hook, a cruel punishment for robbers, hung upon a rib-high gallows with an iron hook through the left side, to die slowly in agony. Marie, Juraj's sweetheart from Trakova, who had waited faithful, heard the news and came to the prison with his mother. Through the bars she clasped his hand. "My love," quoth she, weeping, "they cannot take thy soul." Juraj smiled. "Live free," quoth he. "Remember me when the mountains sing." The execution day came, the town square filled with folk, some to mourn, some to gloat. The gallows stood high, the hook gleaming. Uri was led forth, head high. Even the boldest heart must face its final reckoning, and legends are born in the shadow of the gallows. The day of execution dawned cold and clear in Liptovský Mikuláš, the sky a pale blue above the town square, the air sharp with the bite of early spring. The gallows had been raised high, a tall post with an iron hook curved like a scythe, designed for the cruel death reserved for robbers. The square filled with folk from miles around, peasants in their rough woolens, townsmen in better coats, Hungarian nobles upon horseback, Habsburg officers in uniform. Some came to see justice done, others to mourn a hero. Juraj Jánošík was led forth from the prison at noon, chains clanking upon the cobblestones. He walked with head high, his step firm despite the wounds from his capture. His dark hair fell loose about his shoulders, his eyes bright as ever. He wore the same short embroidered coat and broad belt that had become his mark, though torn and bloodied. The crowd murmured, some with hatred, many with sorrow. Women wept openly, men removed their hats. The judges sat upon a platform, the local magistrate, Hungarian lords, imperial officers. The sentence was read aloud, death by the hook for robbery and rebellion. Uri listened without flinching. When asked if he had final words, he turned to the crowd. "I regret not," quoth he, voice ringing clear. "I took from those who stole from the folk. If I die free in spirit. Remember me when the lords press heavy upon thee." A priest approached with cross and holy water, offering last rites. Uri knelt briefly, crossing himself, then rose. "God judgeth the heart," quoth he. The executioner, a hooded man broad as an ox, led him to the gallows. The hook was sharpened, gleaming in the sun. Uri was stripped to the waist, his body strong and scarred from battles. The crowd fell silent as the hook was driven through his left side, beneath the ribs. He gasped but uttered no cry, only a low groan as he was hoisted high. The agony was terrible, slow death by impalement, blood dripping upon the stones. Uri hung there 3 hours, his face pale but composed, his eyes fixed upon the mountains he loved. Folk said he sang a quiet song at the end, a ballad of the Tatras. At last his head fell forward, and the spirit fled. The body was left upon the hook till dusk, a warning to all. Then cut down and buried in unhallowed ground beyond the town. But the legend did not die with him. In the villages, tales grew swiftly. Jánošík had not killed, only robbed the rich. He gave to the poor, aided widows and orphans. His valaška could cut through chains, his belt gave superhuman strength. He danced upon the glass mountain, bent trees to hide his band. When captured, he escaped twice before the final betrayal. Songs were composed and sung in secret. Juraj Jánošík, hero bold, took from lords their silver and gold, gave to poor in mountain glen, live his name forever then. Children played at being Jánošík and his band. Statues were raised in later years, festivals held in Trakova. He became the symbol of Slovak resistance, against Habsburgs, Hungarians, all oppressors. Historical truth mingled with myth, a bandit to some, a justice bringer to most. His death upon the hook, cruel and lingering, only heightened the tragedy. The Tatras remember him still, in wind and song. Juraj Jánošík, outlaw and legend, liveth eternal in the people's heart. And thus this saga of mountain outlaw and people's champion draweth to its sorrowful close, the body broken, the spirit unbroken, the legend born upon the hook. If these wild Tatras and tales of defiant justice have left their mark upon thy soul, then let our journeys through forgotten myths endure. Subscribe thou gently, as one might raise a toast to the fallen brave, and like this story if its fierce freedom hath inspired thee. Together we may yet seek more heroes from the Old West, for their songs echo ever in the wind.